There's been a long history of gays in the military. People like Alexander the Great, Richard the Lionheart, Rambo. And then there was the Sacred Band of Thebes. I don't know if you know about the Sacred Band of Thebes. There's 150 pairs of gay lovers who formed the elite force of the Theban army in the 4th century BC. So the theory was that if one were to be killed in battle, his partner would fight twice as hard to avenge him. And that's why they were chosen for this elite force. Or maybe it's just because gay men spend a lot of time in the gym. I mean, not me, obviously. I'm far too lazy. My idea of a strenuous workout is using slightly heavier cutlery. It has been over 20 years since gay people were legally allowed to serve in the military, and of course, they've been doing so throughout history anyway. So why is it that our military today are so obsessed with LGBT posturing? For instance, on the very day that Putin began his invasion of Ukraine, this was the front cover story of the Daily Mail. The story was about how the bosses at MI5 and MI6 were instructing spies to acknowledge their white privilege and announce their pronouns. Then there was this tweet on the same day from the Ministry of Defence. Let's have a look. Now, they just had this LGBT coffee morning where they've been discussing pansexuality and asexuality, and they thought that this, the day of the invasion, was the best time to announce that. And then there's this tweet from Richard Moore, the head of MI6. With the tragedy and destruction unfolding so distressingly in Ukraine, we should remember the values and hard-won freedoms that distinguish us from Putin, none more than LGBT plus rights. So let's resume our series of tweets to mark LGBT History Month 2022. Now, look, is this really the priority for the head of MI6? With the prospect of a new Cold War just on the horizon, people fleeing from their homes in terror for their lives? I mean, he's right, of course. Putin is terrible on gay rights. In fact, he's actively hostile to gay rights, and he's also invading another country. So we can all agree he's not the good guy here. But this tweet does tell us something about the way in which our major institutions have been captured utterly by ideologues. Why is the head of MI6 announcing his pronouns? Why is the Ministry of Defence having LGBT coffee mornings? And what about this from the Swedish Army? Now, I'm not sure how effective that kind of camouflage would be, unless you're attempting to assassinate a Care Bear or something. It doesn't just stop at the army. The police are regularly draping themselves in rainbow flags. I mean, we've got this image here. I've no idea what's going on there. I can only assume that they're arresting Christopher Biggins or something. The police, the army, schools, the civil service, all of our major political, cultural, artistic and educational institutions are awash with this stuff. And a lot of it, of course, has come from Stonewall, who reward institutions with extra points in their various workplace diversity schemes if they toe the line. There's even a specific guideline from Stonewall which says that institutions get more points for actively tweeting support for LGBT equality. But the truth is that increasingly gay people feel as though Stonewall has nothing to do with them and in fact is actively working against their interests. As we've mentioned on the show before, Stonewall has redefined the word homosexual on their website to mean same-gender attracted, which isn't what it means at all. Their CEO, Nancy Kelly, has said that gay people who are only attracted to members of their own sex should re-examine their prejudices. She also described women who weren't interested in dating biological males as analogous to sexual racists. Now, I don't think that Kelly is homophobic, by the way, but she is repeating old homophobic tropes. The rainbow flag used to mean something positive. It was a symbol of harmony. And when you saw it outside a pub, you knew you could go in there and have a drink and hold your partner's hand without getting dodgy looks. And now it's come to be a divisive political and ideological symbol relating specifically to gender identity, a concept that most gay people, frankly, don't believe in. The flag, in other words, has been hijacked. It doesn't symbolise unity anymore, it symbolises division. What's more, many gay people I talk to are sick of being patronised by police, teachers or military officials waving their rainbow flags around and treating gay people like pets. All these flags, all these letters, they just make us look ridiculous. I mean, it was once LGB, then it became LGBT, then LGBTQ. Now it's usually LGBTQIA+. Sometimes it's LGBTQ2SIA, which is not to be confused, by the way, with LGBTQIP2SAA. I mean, even the wokest of the woke, Justin Trudeau, he can't keep up.
I will never apologize for standing up for an LGBTQ2+ kids' right.
So depressing. I mean, as the regalia and the lexicon of the LGBT movement grows ever more absurd, one cannot escape the feeling that many of its proponents are nostalgic for the oppression of the past. Present-day identity politics is very much rooted in narratives of victimhood. Now, this makes sense in countries where being gay is illegal or even punishable by death, but no sense at all in a country like the UK, where equal rights have long been established. And this is not to suggest that homophobia has magically ceased to exist, or that we shouldn't vigorously oppose it wherever it lingers. But garish flags and endless strings of letters just confuse everyone and make us into laughingstocks. The struggle for gay rights was about equal treatment before the law and making visible those whose persecution by the state had driven them into the shadows of society. And now that equality has been achieved, the LGBT movement has descended into a corporate orgy of identitarianism. The rainbow flag and all its tawdry spin-offs are a marker of virtue for companies that want to sell products to the gullible, or for institutions like MI6 to show that they are on the right side of history. Well, you know what? A lot of gay people don't want to be your pawns anymore. A lot of us aren't interested in an ideology that pretends to be progressive, but at the same time tells us that we're bigots because we're same-sex attracted. So perhaps it's time to lower the rainbow flag once and for all.